You know it's going to be one of those days when you have to bust out the old brick, Windows XP, 32-bit, but here's the reason. Companies are making it harder and harder and harder to get their software for older versions of such things, like the Hydra Nemesis 2.5. You can't even download this anymore. I guess Element Tuning wants you to buy it from them. You have to buy 15-year-old software for a one-time use car. It's just the stupidest thing ever. I'm not sure why people use Hydras. It's absolutely ridiculous. So we're gonna go plug this thing in, assuming I can find a battery for this old dinosaur beast. We were just joking about never throwing anything away and why hoarding exists, and this is the reason right here. Hydra Nemesis 2.5. Good stuff. Not really. It's terrible. Don't buy it. All right, here we are. We're on a laptop today. I know that doesn't happen nearly as often enough as it should. I'm going to show you. I was trying to decide what engine management I wanted to run on the car, and so I was like, well, let's see. We have Haltechs on the shelf, and it'd be nice to run something that I don't have to order in. I'm still thinking about running the Fuel Tech, but the Haltech is something that I've used a lot. I tune these pretty regularly, almost on a daily basis anymore, it seems like. Tuned one yesterday, tuned one 2 days ago, so it's something that I'm very familiar with. So let's see if this is going to, one of the downsides is, I'm trying to run a lot of inputs, being that this has two camshafts that are, I guess there's 4 camshafts, but 2 are variable, which chews up a lot of inputs. So let's just make sure that this is gonna work. So here we go, let's pull this up. Loading. I think I'm gonna grab my tripod here. 1 second. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. Could probably get some sort of screen capture thing, but with what I have. So this is I just opened the base Elite 1500 on the newest firmware, which is 2.35. I don't know anything about this firmware, but I just know that it's new. So I started with the new calibration. Now we're gonna come up here to settings, and we're gonna get going on this. So 4-cylinder, 2000 cc, doesn't matter so much for what we're doing here. If I wanted to get super correct, fire in order 1, 3, 2, 4 on a Subaru, it's gonna yell at me for a second. All right, but what we're trying to do is make sure that this has enough inputs in order to properly tune this car. So I believe the trigger is the MY01, it might be MY99. Either way, it's correct. It tells you over here what you're looking for as far as the trigger goes. 36 teeth on the wheel with a couple of gaps, and then on the home, 2 teeth 90 degrees apart. That's the more important part, is that the home is correct. I believe pretty much all the Subaru crank triggers are essentially the same, except for some of the really old ones had 7 teeth. So that's about it for there. Fuel wise, we are definitely gonna switch this to flex fuel. No, it's an error. It's an error because we don't have an ethanol sensor set up yet. Ignition, spark mode, sequential, that's important. Fueling, sequential, direct fire, that's all fine for now. Now the trigger is not correct. These are reluctors. Sorry, I meant to fix that a second ago. The rest of the settings I'll take care of later. I'm not setting this up to start a car. I just wanted to see and make sure we have enough inputs. So in the functions, it's got a whole bunch of stuff that's already here, but we're gonna use this down here. So we're just gonna kind of go through the list and populate everything that we want to have on this car. So AC control, anti-lag, probably not right now. Baro, we're gonna run a Baro, and I'll show you how in a second. So actually, I'll just go ahead and assign this. No, I won't. Battery voltage boost control, yes. Boost pressure sensor. That's like if you had a separate pressure sensor. Cam control, yeah, let's enable that. Check engine light, clutch switch. These are all in error because we haven't assigned them to anything yet. Coolant temp, yeah, data log will do parameters for. Not running drive-by-wire on this car, not running variable intake runner, so like if you were trying to run AVCS, that'd be that. Not running evap. No EGT. I mean, we can actually set up EGT if we wanted, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So fuel flow, fuel level, not so important, but we do want fuel pressure, fuel pump. We will run gear detection as well and gear ratios. Gearbox oil temperature I want set up in case I decide to run the auto trans. With an auto trans, that's pretty important. Generic channels we're not going to worry about right now. All right, here we go. Idle control. Intake air temp, not control for sure. Definitely want that launch control. Definitely want that. Let's see, mass airflow, no, we're not going to run a MAF. Neutral switch we don't really need. Nitrous, as much fun as I love nitrous, we're not going to be running that. O2 control, we will be running. Oil pressure sensor, yeah buddy. Overboost cut. I'm not sure, I can set up the race timer later. That's not as important for the initial stuff. Let's see, rolling anti-lag, that's all fun. We could set that up at a future time if we wanted to. We could put shift lights in it though. For sure, we like shift lights. Tack, yes, thermofan, and actually we want to do 2 thermofans. We're just going to see if there's enough inputs and outputs on this box, on the 1500. A lot of times Subarus have to run the 2500 because they just don't have enough control, which then increases the price quite a bit. So we're not running tumble generators, not running variable valve lift. We will run a vehicle speed sensor. We definitely want wideband, and I think that's it. So now we've got a whole bunch of errors. First thing we're going to do is go to devices. We want to set up our wideband because we're definitely just going to run the CAN-based wideband controller. It just makes life easier. So now that's correct. So let's just go to the top. Baro sensor. So we need a manifold pressure sensor. Did I get that? Yeah. So normally they have you use the onboard one. I don't really like using the onboard one. I prefer to have the one at the throttle body. It just seems to make the cars work a little bit smoother. So we'll go ahead and assign that. This is pretty cool. So you just give it an input, and then now that's the input that it's going to be on. It can be on anything. I mean, I could put it on any of these available inputs that are currently available, but I don't want it on a shielded one. I'll kind of show you why in a minute. But yeah, there's that. Actually, I might, sure, I'll put it on a shielded one. We'll put it on AVI 1 just because it is our map signal. All right. Now we want to go back to Baro, which is the first one, and now we're going to switch it to onboard. Edit connection. We're going to use the one that comes on the Haltech as the Baro. All right, boost control, output. Apparently it's shared with tachometer for its default output, so we'll go down to tachometer here and change that beast to a different DPO. We'll change it to DPO 2. All right, cool. All right, cam control. We've got 2 banks, 1 solenoid per cam, intake only. So we've got an input. We need 1 input. We'll use SPI. I actually want to use SPI 1. No, we'll use 3 and 4. SPI 3 and SPI 4. Those are synced pulse inputs. They're designed for things that spin, but they can be used for other stuff too. The outputs, I like the higher current ones. We're not running drive-by-wire, but the drive-by-wire outputs in the Haltech are designed for a little bit higher current than the normal DPOs, which are digital pulsed outputs. So the drive-by-wire ones are preferred. It is a pretty heavy solenoid. We definitely want to make sure that it can control the current. So there's that. And again, I'm not worried about the settings right now. We just want to get the wiring thing done. Check engine light output. We got a DPO 4, that sounds like a good one for it. Clutch switch, this is an input. And again, the settings aren't like totally correct. We'll put it on a higher number, AVI 9. You'll have to mess with the pull-ups and the switch on-off voltages, but that can all be done at a different time. Why does that still say an error? It won't let me apply until I fix everything. I'll have to see what that does. All right, coolant temp, that's got a default. Decel, we'll worry about engine on-off control. Engine protection, this is kind of fun for doing safeties. We'll get to that in a later video. Fuel pressure sensor, all right, let's get a fuel pressure input. AV2, sounds good to me. Fuel pumps and output, that's already default. Gear detection, we don't have to worry about right now yet. Gearbox oil temp. Put that on AV3. Let's just scroll down to other errors. Oil pressure sensor. But you can't guess, it's going to be AV4. Shift lights, these are outputs. Depot 3. I actually don't want that on Depot 3. Oh, I know what's going on. 1 second, I'm going to figure out, I'll show you guys what's going on here. I'm missing a whole section of sensors. So I'm missing a whole section of outputs. And that's because the default on idle control is a 4-wire. Subarus run a 2-wire, which is a BAC, not a stepper, which actually only uses 1 wire technically. So we're going to put that on step 1. Now we've got 3 extra outputs. So I can run like the thermofan on number 3 and number 4, because we have 2 fans on the Subarus, assuming I decide to run 2. And then the shift lights, I didn't want on a DPO, I want those on just a stepper output. All right, so essentially, we're all good here. Oh, we're missing something. What's going on here? Fuel. We didn't set up flex fuel for some reason. I missed that one. Flex fuel. There it is. We can do fuel composition and temperature. Your basic GM sensor can do both. And this is going to use the synced pulsed input. All right. And, oh yeah, it tells you the edge is wrong. Rising edge. All right. Let's see. So now we can just go down the list to make sure everything makes sense. Boost controls on a depot. Cam control, that makes sense. Check engine light is on a depot. I actually think I want that. I guess that's on a depot. Okay. Clutch switch is an input, AVI 9. Coolant temp is an input, AVI 8. Decel is a mode, TPS or map. You can set your decel cuts to whatever you want. Engine on-off control, engine protection is modes. Flex fuel, I don't know why that's, I think if I hit apply. Yeah, there we go. All right, so flex fuel is set up. Fuel pressure is on an AVI 2. Fuel pumps and output. Gear detection is based on vehicle speed, and then it uses like, you know, basically some math to calibrate. Gearbox oil temp. I could also do that as engine oil temperature if I decided to. Idle controls 1 wire on a Subaru. Intake temp, knock control. Knock detection has its own input. Launch control is going to use the clutch. Here I go setting stuff up even though I said I wasn't going to. Manifold pressure, AVI 1. Wideband O2 is on the can. O2 control is just settings. Oil pressure sensors on or analog voltage input, sorry, not auxiliary. Overboost cut is based on RPM limiters stuff. All right, shift lights, stepper, tachometer, DPO out, thermofan on the steppers. Throttle position sensor is on an input, an AVI. Transient throttle is based on stuff, and then vehicle speed sensor is on SPI1. Now here's what the cool part is. We just basically wrote a wiring schematic, and this is where I really, really like Haltech. And the power that you're about to see is only just now starting to show up in other manufacturers. And I really, really wish they would all do this. I mean, a lot of them just tell you where these things should go, but Haltech lets you put them where you want. You know, if I wanted this on a different connection, I could put it on a different connection. Now they're all allocated, so I'd have to unallocate something in order to switch it. But the fact that I can do that and I can tell it where I want it is really important and really powerful. So I click down here, this View I/O report, and there it is. So what I have here is quite literally my list of everything that's on the car. And the other fun thing is it tells me what I have left. I actually have one output and two inputs left after configuring this JDM version 7 STI engine, which a lot of people say uses a bunch of extra inputs and is very difficult to do on an Elite 1500. You'd have to use the 2500, which is like $800 more. So I've just shown that I can do it on the 1500 and have plenty of sensors, plenty of extra stuff. I got two more sensors I can put in here. Let's see, what could we add, you know, just for the future. Like anti-lag, we could add an anti-lag switch. You know, you could put a switch for the anti-lag so that you press a button and the car goes into anti-lag mode. You could have additional auxiliary rev limiters, again, where you arm it with another switch, so you could have like a burnout mod. Not that Subarus really need a burnout mod, but brake pedal switch. This is more important on a drive-by-wire car than on a drive-by cable car, but you could put a brake pedal switch that then allows, you know, the car to do something different as far as boost goes. Let you change some stuff. Brake pressure, here you go, brake pressure sensors for staging control, help the car stage better. Cam control, we already did that. Coolant pressure sensor is a fun one. This is going to tell you if your head gasket went. Could definitely put one of those in there, so let's just throw that on that AVI 5. Crankcase pressure, another one that'll tell you if your head gasket went. Crankcase pressure is actually a really good indication of knock as well. You see big spikes in crankcase pressure, that's usually knock, even if your knock sensor doesn't necessarily pick it up. Data logging switch is fun, but our data logging we can set up with parameters instead of having a switch, but sometimes you want to switch. Differential oil temperature sensor for like your rear diff. We're not doing drive-by-wire. Engine pressure ratio. This would actually be kind of a fun one. You could do, instead of say this coolant pressure is good, but usually the point at which that sensor goes off, stuff is in not a good way. So I'm going to actually switch. I just did coolant pressure. The other one I did was crankcase pressure. Where'd that go? If I could spell. All right, I don't want that on a shielded one. Shielded out inputs just mean that they're going to have less noise on the input. Things that aren't as critical, there's only so many shielded inputs, so you have to pick and choose what you're going to have that's shielded. So running most of the things on unshielded is totally fine. But let's do exhaust gas pressure. That way we can do engine pressure ratio, which will be super cool for tuning later. Where'd that go? Engine pressure ratio. There you go. So MAP, which is manifold absolute pressure over exhaust manifold absolute pressure, gives you the pressure ratio through your motor. So now we can view our I/O report again. And now it shows we just have that one DPO3 left, which is an output. I don't know why they always show drive-by-wire up there. If we wanted to add any more devices, at this point we're tapped out. But let's say we did want to run drive-by-wire down the road. What we'd have to do, or we wanted to run 8 injector, you know, you could do that. You'd have to get one of these guys. It's an I/O expander box. And once you added that to it, and let's add a thermocouple box. Once you add those to it, now you can do exhaust gas temperature. Oops, where'd that go? EGT1. Solder 1, edit connection. There you go. You know, I guess I only did a 2-channel box. Let me fix that. TCA4, there we go. All right, TCA4. So, you know, you can go in and set up your EGTs, solder 2, TCA2, and so on. That would give you individual channel exhaust gas temps, cylinder 3, TCA 3, and cylinder 4, TCA 4. Come on. All right, so we got that in there. Now we can put, I was saying if I wanted to do 8 injector, so now let me show you how to do that. So I added a bunch of inputs, right, when I added that auxiliary box back over here. So it's an expander box. It adds 12 total inputs and outputs. You can see if we were to click on just something random, fuel return flow sensor, and I click here now, I was out of inputs and now I have 4 more AVIs, so input expander A. And you could actually run 2 of these expander boxes, which would give you 8 total more inputs. And then if I want more outputs, let's find an output we can set up here real quick. Just a generic output 1, just to show you the new outputs. There you go. So you've got the 1 left over, and then I've got 4 more there. They can be used for really anything. All right, so let's say that I wanted to add 8 injectors to this car. Because it's a 1500, it only has 4 injector channels. So now what I can do is I can come over here to engine up here and then to fuel and say, let's add another 4. Number of stages, 2. All right, and let's hit apply. There we go. Some things are in error. Number of injectors, 4. Sequential per cylinder. Boom. Now we actually have 8 injectors set up. I'm not sure why it's giving me an error. Let me hit apply and see what it does. Please remove the issues in red. Let's see. Why, oh why, oh why? This is fun. This is the fun part. You know, I've just trying to add 2 sets and it doesn't want me to, but why? Let's go to the I/O report. Let's just see. So we've got I/O expander box. Oh, apparently you can't set, well, that's fun. Apparently the digital expander boxes don't add injector outputs. For some reason I thought they did. I must have been thinking of a different product. Well, that's unfortunate. So it looks like we have digital pulse inputs, 4 of them, analog voltage inputs, 4, and then 4 DPOs. So it's 8 inputs and 4 outputs. Interesting. For some reason I thought you could use that box to stage up a second set of injectors. That makes me kind of sad. 1 stage, apply, there we go. Well, now I'm seriously considering something totally different, unless I missed something. I/O expander box. They automatically select the Haltech dash. Maybe it's on the race module. It must be on the race module. Enable auxiliary inputs and outputs. Get rid of this other guy. So apparently you can't run both together. All right, there we go. Unless it's box B. Oh. Well, let's see. What do we got on functions now? Cam control is not going to work. Oh, interesting. The REM watchdog runs on that channel. But I do believe the race expansion module is kind of a cool box that they have that lets you do some more fun features. REM AVI, REM DPI, REM DPO. There it is. Yeah, there's the REM injectors. So I knew that there was some way to set up, so I could actually put 8 more injectors if I ran an REM. And then, yeah. And it has its own DPIs, so you just got to switch the DPI. Anyway, So it is possible to run multiple. That's the data logging. We're going to turn that off for now. Sorry, I kind of got off on a tangent, which is going to turn this into a really long video. But essentially, the main question that has been answered is, can this run my version 7 motor with an Elite? It's actually Elite 1000 or Elite 1500, and the answer is yes. Do have a 1500 on the shelf, so it's currently pretty high on the list, but we'll see. I'd have to buy the 1500 and buy a dash if I wanted it to have decent functionality, and actually buying the dash eliminates the need for a tachometer and shift lights because those are built into the dash. So, you know, I can get rid of those two and then free up 2 more outputs for whatever else. So anyway, that's my video for today. I know it's not exciting, it doesn't show a whole lot, but it is pretty important to this feature here, like I was showing again, this IO allocations. And then this you can print this guy. It's going to spit out the room, and I can go grab it, and it's 3 pages long, and it's going to show exactly what it is that we're doing on the car and help me wire it up. There's one. Apparently I'm out of paper, but you can see, here you go. So it prints it out, and then you can use that to help you wire up the car. It's pretty straightforward once you get to this point. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. Bye.